Hey everyone, in this section, we're going to be talking about receiving user input. In Python, we use the input function to get input from the user in the terminal. The syntax for creating an input is you're most likely going to want to store it into a variable, so we'll do variable is equal to input, and then inside the parentheses is what the user will see right before they input. And don't worry, I'll go over some examples. So input actually just returns a string, and it's the string that the user types. So they can type anything in there and we will get what they typed. Okay, so let's do an example. We can just type input first and see what that does. So it looks like our program is just like really slow or loading or something, but it's actually waiting for our input. So if we click down here, we can actually start typing stuff. Like say hello world and click enter. Now it didn't do anything with it because we didn't store in a variable or do anything with a variable. So we can actually just set this to something like answer equals input. But still, it's not going to do anything because we haven't done anything with answers. So if you wanted, we can just say you typed and then plus answer. This will just say you typed and then whatever they typed. So if we run this, we can say hi, you typed hi. If we run it again, hello, you typed hello. And now it's time to see what would happen if we type something inside here. So we can say enter something and with a colon so they know to type. And now it says hi, and it says you typed hi. And a lot of times it's a good idea to put a space right at the end of the string for input because as you notice it doesn't look that good right here. So if we put a space, now it looks like they're actually typing in an input field that just looks a little bit better. Okay, so that's the basic example of input. Now let's do a program that calculates the year someone was born in. We could say age is equal to input, enter your age. And now we can say year equal to, you'll do whatever year it is, but right now it's 2023, minus age. And down here we can just say you were born in year, space, plus year. And then we'll do a period. So what this should do is it should say enter your age, and then right here is where the user will type, so maybe 25. And then it does some calculations. The user doesn't see those calculations, they're in the background. And then it says you were born in year 1998, because 2023 minus 25 is 1998. And this is what it should do, but it doesn't. We get an error. So as you can see, the error we get once we enter our age, let's say 25, is a type error. This is because it says line 2, so we can go look at line 2. Unsupported operand type for subtraction, int and str. What this is saying is you can't subtract ints and strs or strs and ints. They are not really compatible. So the reason for this is because input actually returns a string, and we're trying to subtract 2023 from a string. This is not ideal. So what we could do is we can just use the int function. This converts a string to an integer. If we do age is equal to int age, this is setting age equal to the integer version of age. Now note how we're not just doing this because this doesn't actually change the value of age. This changes the value of age. And so now you might think it works, but it still doesn't. Let me show you. 25, it says you can only concatenate str, not int to str. And it's a different line now though. We did fix that previous error. But the reason for this is because year is an integer. And you might think that's good, right? But we can't concatenate strings to integers. So we can just use the str function to convert an integer to a string. And this time we're not actually changing the value of year. We're just using the string version of year for this print statement. And so now this should work perfectly. 25, and it says you were born in year 1998. But now we have the problem of what if the user enters something like just random letters. Now we get an error, the program crashes because this is not a number, so it can't possibly convert age to an integer. It just doesn't work. So for now, what we could do is before we do this, we can say if age.is numeric. If you remember this, this function checks to see if a string contains only numbers, meaning can age be converted to an integer. We can just do equals equals true, or we don't even have to do true, because if you remember in an if statement, this is the same thing as doing this. It's just implied. And so here we can just indent this. And so if age is numeric, then we convert it to an integer. And if it's not, so we'll do else, then we can say print you entered letters instead of numbers. Try again. And this actually will not work as much as you might expect, because if we enter our age of letters, then it still says it, right? But then we get that error. That's because after this entire if statement, then it continues on with the program. So we can, in Python, we can exit our programs easily by typing the exit function. And there we go. So this should work. You entered letters instead of numbers, try again. You try it again, and now enter something correctly, and it works. But you might notice that this is kind of inefficient, because I think it's better to prompt the user again instead of make them rerun the whole program. Because if there was this big program with a lot of questions going on, it would not be very helpful to the user if it kept just quitting on them every single time they entered something wrong. So we can just comment out this if statement. If you're not familiar with commenting code, in Python it's any line that you put a hash in front of is skipped by Python. So you can even write notes like I used this code but not anymore, just anything random, so that you remember in the future, or for people looking on your code can see what you're doing. Python will just skip over this for now. And now we can make a while loop, because you'll notice that down here you can prompt them again, age equals input, enter your age, but then if they enter this one wrong, then you'll have to check all of this again, and that would be a nested if statement, right? But then if this didn't work, well then why not just type this again, right? But we're not nesting if statements over and over forever. That just doesn't work, because you don't know how many times the user is going to enter something wrong. So we can use the while loop. So we'll go over here and we'll do while age.isNumeric is equal to false. So what this is saying is while, so it'll keep doing the while loop until age is numeric. So now we can say age equals input, enter your age. But this time we can actually say you entered letters, enter your age in numbers. And this is because if age is numeric, it won't run this while loop at all. It will just skip over it because it doesn't need to, because it's not false. So if the first time it says enter your age, if they enter something wrong, then it goes in here and it says you entered letters. When this while loop is done, then we can actually get this this function over here. We just delete that code, and we can just have this here. So what this is doing is, first we are setting age equal to input, and then if it's not able to convert to an integer, then it prompts you again until it's able to. So it'll keep repeating this until it is numeric, because each time we're setting it to input again. Once it is numeric, then we're done with the while loop. So we go down here and convert age to an integer, and then we do our calculation, and then we print it. And so this should be pretty error proof. So if we run this, we can say enter your age, a bunch of letters. You can keep doing this forever until eventually you type a number, and it says you were born in 1998. But what if the user just, for example, I'm just giving a bunch of other examples because this is just going to show to you that when you're programming, there are a lot of places for errors. So it's really hard to think of all of them. But what makes great programmers is the fact that they're able to think of them all. So what if the user puts a space before it or even after it, right? Then it says you entered letters. And they're like, what? I entered numbers, what are you talking about? They entered a space, and that's not numeric. So over here, we can just put dot strip. If you remember, it removes white space from the beginning and end of the string. It's saying age is equal to input, so the string that they enter. And then we are just removing all of the white space with the dot strip after that. And make sure you add it to the other function as well, because we're doing it both times. We're doing it for this one and for the error one. So we ran this now, and it says we just put a bunch of spaces, 25, and now it works. And so this is pretty error proof. You might find some other things. For example, the year 2023 will change. And most programs don't just have the year in there, because then the programmers will have to go in every single year and change all the times that says 2023. So there are ways to calculate the year, modules, and stuff like that that we'll learn in the future. But this is just a quick example of input, which just simply gets input from the user.